Tiffany Gaines, host of the Seekers podcast. Please do me a favor, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified of any new videos that I upload to my YouTube channel. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to hit the like button. Please, not feel free, just be free and hit the like button. At the end of the video, also, I appreciate comments, commentary, insight. You wrong, you crazy, you still don't know what you're talking about. I love all of that feedback and let's engage. But let me know your thoughts at the end of the video. You know how kids just kind of run around and they just act like they got all the time in the world to get life together. They just kind of they see you tripping, they see you worrying, they see you asking and hear you asking why, when you, why don't you, aren't you concerned about, and they just kind of that's kind of how I feel about the NBA today. I know I have no insight as to what Adam Silver, my favorite commissioner of the four major sports, because I feel like he has the most difficult job managing image of the NBA, managing black culture, all of these things. I feel like because I don't know what Adam Silver is doing and I'm just looking at what people are talking about, I'm looking at the product on the television, I'm looking at fights, brawls, quote unquote brawls. I really don't even like to use brawls because the Malice in the Palace thing still has a stigma assigned to the NBA. But I feel like I'm on edge because I love the NBA so much and I want its reputation to soar, climb, rise. I don't want it hovering down here in nonsense and abyss with referee talk, with negativity, with fights pushing and shoving, things like that, NBA All Star game stains. I just want the NBA to elevate and stay up there. I want to move away from the negativity that's already apparent with the NBA and its entitled players. I feel like they are fine getting paid market value. I don't care what people say about NBA players making too much money with these guaranteed contracts. It is market value. You don't want anybody coming at your job saying that you make too much money for your skill set. I'm not saying that there isn't something to be said about the brand of entitlement, but we can't assign that to just NBA players. That's a brand of entitlement going on for any generation of people that is 20 years younger than I am. And so we can just kind of assign that across that whole group of citizens, people, wherever they are. But I am just kind of nerved up about really I'm probably more bothered. I feel like the pushing and shoving situation, that's gonna be what it's gonna be. But I am really kind of bothered with this NBA referee narrative. Skip Bayless said something. I don't know if this was when Shannon Sharp was still on the show, but Skip Bayless said a while back LeBron James was aggravated during the Boston Celtics game. I believe this is why Shannon was still on there. And it was a last second shot. LeBron went to the basket. He was fouled. He collapsed in agony because there was no call by the refs on the floor. A later look, I guess the 2 minute report came out. Referees acknowledged there should have been a call. It should have been a foul. But Skip Bayless said something then that I had not heard, and I disagreed with him. But one thing I've learned slowly but surely starting to accept Skip may not be likable, but a lot of people outside of, those of us who are debate show fans, Skip is connected. He knows people. He's been in the industry a long time. He has to have favors. He has to have people. He's connected. And Skip Bayless said LeBron doesn't get fouls because referees don't respect his free throw ability. And I was like, that's bananas. That's nonsense. What? You call a foul because it's a foul, not because you feel like a guy will or won't make a free throw. I dismissed it. Be gone with that, Skip. That's dumb. That ain't even real. That's in your head. He said it again earlier this week. they're not going to call a foul on a guy who does not have a reputation of being a great free throw shooter. In essence, a Steph Curry, a Dame Lillard, guys with higher free throw percentages are more likely to get calls. This is his kind of inference, right? And Keyshawn argued with him then and said that doesn't make any sense. That's baloney. They call a foul because it's a foul. Now we fast forward a couple of days ago, the end of the Detroit Pistons game. The Detroit Pistons are in the basement of wins in the NBA. They don't have many. I'm not going to even pretend I know how many games they've won this season, but they are the basement. They're in the basement of wins this season. They were playing the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks a couple of weeks ago were in a game with my Houston Rockets where the referees called a foul on Bronson. He air fouled, no body contact. Um, Aaron Holiday. Aaron Holiday was awarded 3 shots, and I believe this foul happened at the end of the half. Thibodeau, irate, whole fiasco. I believe the refs acknowledged, hey, we missed that. Shouldn't have been a foul. But the 2-minute report doesn't erase the outcome of a game. It's just a referee's acknowledgement that, hey, yeah, we kind of missed that. Our bad, right? So this was the Knicks a couple of weeks ago, and they protested. I believe they protested this after the Rockets game. Now, so the Knicks are playing the basement win Detroit Pistons. And at the end of the game, Amir Thompson, or is it, no, he plays for my Rockets, Asur Thompson steals the ball from the Knicks. I mean, and the score is tied, I believe. Well, no, the Pistons are up by 1. And Thompson, gets control of the ball, and DiVincenzo runs up to him, kind of London bridges him, gets under his body, makes contact with his body, and I don't care what anybody says, but it was a playthrough. There was no foul call. He makes contact with this man, just tackles him essentially. The Knicks end up with the ball, and Josh Hart makes a basket with like 2 seconds left, and Josh Hart plays for the Knicks, and Josh Hart is also awarded a foul for an and one. Josh Hart makes the basket plus the foul. The Knicks end up winning by 2. The Pistons were up by 1 before all of this ruckus happened. Thompson has the ball. DiVincenzo runs against him, separates him and the ball. The Knicks get the ball. Hart makes a basket and gets an and one. Knicks win the game. Again, let's go back to Skip. The refs are not gonna award fouls if your free throw percentage is meh. You make it, you may not. I kind of thought about what Skip said when I saw that. Did the referees totally look over that call because it was the Detroit Pistons? Kind of keeping in line with what Skip said. Do the referees just kind of say, well, it's just the Pistons. The Knicks are pretty relevant here. Is it just that they turn off thinking? Is it an autopilot thing? Do you kind of disregard the low man on the totem pole? Is that what's happening with NBA referees? Kind of goes back to something I was talking about months ago. Chris Paul and Scott Foster. Scott Foster, does he have a nerve embedded in his psyche when he refs a game with Chris Paul? Chris Paul's been injured and he's not been playing. And I don't know if after that, Scott Foster and Chris Paul have been on the court at the same time. But is there something to this nonsense? And I'm calling it nonsense because I'm not going to affirm it to be true. I want the NBA, my second favorite sport, to remain pure. I'm not saying referees are perfect, but does Skip Bayless have a point? Do referees swallow whistle based on the person that a foul happens to? Did they swallow whistle, look away, just kind of turn off thinking because it was the Detroit Pistons? I have a hard time believing that if DiVincenzo had tackled Steph Curry, come in body contact with Steph Curry of the Warriors, even LeBron James, regardless of his free throw woes, any other viable winning team, would they have swallowed that whistle? Skip may have a point. And now I'm looking at this whole thing a little bit differently. I know it sounds real conspiracy theory-ish, but I don't know. Skip has said that one too many times for me, and he says it with conviction. Now, I know a lot of what Skip says about some things. He says a lot of things about LeBron with conviction. He says a lot of things about Steph Curry with conviction. But he said he didn't say this with his normal animated, you can see through the bull type of conviction. He is really settled in this. He says, I'm telling you what I know. And I believe Skip is connected enough to have a ref buddy, maybe from a time in the past, that has confirmed some things with him. He feels comfortable enough to say that a ref will look away, kind of shrug his shoulders at a call. It's bad enough sometimes refs go back and forth, how they're going to call a game, depending on how a team comes out, have they established aggression and going to the basket? Okay, kind of like umpires call balls and strikes. I know they kind of have that leeway to decide on how they're going to call a game. They're going to call a game tight just because tensions, prior relationship, what's happened at the last game. If referees have been under a microscope lately, they may be a little bit more tight on their whistle calling. And sometimes in the playoffs, they let them play. They're a little bit more loose in what they call. But the Detroit Pistons were Rob Monty Williams, a great guy, a great coach, a great man. Do you disrespect people, NBA referees, based on their level of achievement? And is that what you're paid to do? Does Adam Silver know that? Is that something we should be looking at? I don't know. But it does kind of make you. The other day was just like, it was like, whoa, this man undercut Thompson. He just kind of, London Bridge just went under the man, just went under the man. The Knicks end up winning the game, and nobody cares. I'm not gonna say it. I mean, outside of Detroit, we really don't care, and I ain't got nothing against the Pistons. I mean, but if that was not Detroit, there would be an uproar. But it just happened to be the Pistons. But if that was the end of the season and the Pistons were trying to get into the playoffs, that would have been a call made. And if that would have been any other winning team, that call would not have happened. If that was the Denver Nuggets, Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, the Clippers, even the Lakers and LeBron, there are a lot of teams that would have gotten that call. Did the refs disregard it because it's the basement winning Pistons? I am interested. Skip Bayless said something about LeBron and him not getting a call. It just made me kind of extend thinking, and maybe I'm gonna put a little validity behind what Skip said. I don't know. I would love to know what people think about that. And has anybody else heard Skip Bayless make mention of LeBron James not getting calls because refs don't think he's going to make his free throws? And he seems really settled and really calm when he says that. Be interested to know. Tiffany Gaines Secrets Podcast. Please do me a favor. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you've not already subscribed. All right. I appreciate the comments. I love commentary. I love people telling me that I'm wrong. Gives me something to shoot for. Maybe you got a different point that I've not thought about. But also, listen, I love my black guys, my black men, married to a woman, but still, that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Listen, and I don't even want to say this guy's name, but A few years ago, Kwame Brown jumped on the scene and started going hard at certain media personalities for how they are sort of abusive in their critique of athletes. I got it. I still get it. I understand. And I've kind of changed my thinking on, well, my ears burn a little more whenever they get a little too harsh. I'm like, oh, is that necessary? Because I get Kwame Brown's point. How could it be a bust? He made it to the NBA. How his career panned out, that may be something different, but could we call him a bust? We set the expectations as to who these guys are supposed to be. The fact that they don't reach our expectations and maybe how their career panned out could be a multitude of things. It could be a multitude of things: injury, coaching, assignment. What's that kid's mindset? Are they really prepared for that level? A bunch of things could play into that. So I kind of respected what Kwame Brown said, specifically about Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith is one of my all time favorite personalities. I do love, root, and support for him in every facet. I love the fact that he is a black man, the face of ESPN. I love the fact that he is brought on different talents and such as Shannon Sharp, such as Kendrick Perkins, and has really kind of put name and platform in front of these guys so that they can continue to rise and soar. And I love the fact that he is a way maker. He makes a way in the path for pretty much anybody that I think wants to be a part of ESPN. I think he's a voice that the ESPN heads listen to, and he's somebody that they respect. And so I call him a waymaker. So I love that about Stephen A. Smith. I also know that Stephen A. Smith is an entertainment personality. He does happen to talk about sports. He gives perspective and analysis on sports, but he is mostly, I'm not diminishing his skill set as a writer. I understand where he came from as a writer. The Philadelphia Inquirer, I believe, in his time in Philly and reporting, being a beat reporter for the Philadelphia 76ers. I acknowledge all of his accolades, but he has come up through the ranks as a loud, entertaining personality, right? And even through his rising, he's not lost his knowing that he is a personality first. He's a personality first. He may say he's a journalist first, but I mean, maybe that was his shtick back in the day. But right now, Stephen A. Smith, you're a personality first. And so it is his job to deliver in an entertaining manner. Now, Zion Williamson, star for the New Orleans Pelicans. Um, Man, everybody was looking for Zion when he was at Duke and he blew out that shoe. It was like, whoa, what an impact he is going to be in the NBA. And he's a big guy. God, he's a big guy. But man, hops, wow. Watching him play, especially at Duke in his first couple of years in the NBA, impressive, right? Shannon Sharp is one of the first people who said Zion's going to have size problems if he doesn't control his eating and his health, physique, nutrition, diet, and exercise. He's going to be a problem, and health is going to be a problem because of that. Sure enough, Zion has had up and down injury issues. He's been out a ton. His first, oh man, is this his fourth year in the NBA? He was first pick. Ja Morant was the second pick. I think it's his fourth year, fourth, fifth year. I don't even want to say five, but around that time, he's missed a considerable amount of games um, during his young NBA career, and people on ESPN, pundits, personalities have talked about his weight being one of the main issues for his health, his unavailability. And Stephen A. Smith apparently was on Get Up, his ESPN brother Mike Greenberg show last week, and was going on his monologue about Zion Williamson. The problem with the Pelicans in the playoff is going to be Zion Williamson eating burgers. And there is a narrative about Zion and his eating habits. There's a narrative about chefs looking forward and loving Zion Williamson's business because he's an eater, right? Okay, but he's also a fantastic NBA star. But the New Orleans Pelicans, I guess, have had enough, and they trolled Stephen A. by putting on display on one of the social media platforms a lot of Stephen A.'s non athletic abilities, whether it's boxing, the first pitch he threw out during a Yankees baseball game, him slipping on an NBA floor, him missing NBA three-pointer shots, practicing messing around on the court. They did this trolling thing, and they put up a little, everybody knows the Wilt Chamberlain 100 points little piece of paper that Wilt Chamberlain hands up, but they put Stephen A. Smith on it, and they put his college average. I think it was 1.5. So they trolled Stephen A. Smith. They're tired of Stephen A. loudly talking about Zion Williamson, or the way he talks about Zion Williamson. And Stephen A. chose his podcast platform to clap back at the Pelicans. And also Antonio Daniels called Stephen A's critique talking about Zion Williamson and his eating habits as lazy. Stephen A didn't like that. I always find it interesting when media personalities go rogue in how they describe someone. Shannon Sharp does this too. This sort of self-righteous, you can't say anything about me. It's my job to critique. Yes, it's your job to critique, but there's a way you can do your job and still be doing your job, right? But Antonio Daniels called him lazy. He said I was lazy. You ain't got to talk about that man eating burgers, essentially. And Stephen A is notorious for saying, Shannon too, two brothers I love, they're notorious for saying it's not personal. How is what I said personal? And for the life of me, I don't get how they don't understand that talking about the man eating burgers, backing away from the table, talking about how much he eats, how he hides food, calling him essentially to just the way that they talk about his weight, I don't know how they don't think that that's personal. You can talk about Zion Williamson's weight by simply saying he has to keep his weight under control. If his weight and nutrition are under control, you can just say that. You don't have to label specific things that he may be eating. Burgers, pushing back from the table, eating burgers. You don't have to go into that. You don't have to go into what restaurants may be on speed dial for Zion. You don't have to go into how he's hiding food, because if Zion Williamson is doing that, is it possible that he has an eating issue? I have no idea. No idea. But if he does have some kind of, if he is hiding food, and if Stephen A, you know that for facts, if this is a fact, you know this for sure. If somebody's hiding food, to me, that's an automatic sign. It's like, what's going on? Why do you feel like you have to hide food? Because Zion Williamson is at home before and after games. It seems like he could eat whenever he wanted to eat, right? He could eat and gorge before and after a game. Why would he have to hide food during the day or while he's at the facility or something like that? I don't know. Somebody hiding food away from the plain sight of people you work with. I don't know. That might seem like a different issue, and I might not make fun of that. But when Stephen A. Smith and or other people say, "Well, it's not personal," it damn sure is personal. You don't have to talk about somebody in a personal manner, because Stephen A., you're addressing the Pelicans trolling you because you, quote unquote, you say it's not personal, but yet you took the time to clap back at them for taking personal shots at you. It's like, I feel like these guys are articulate enough. Stephen A has an extensive vocabulary. There are different ways to critique a person to where it doesn't feel personal. Even if you, Stephen A, say it's not personal, somebody must feel like it's personal. And if there's a feeling attached to something, then maybe it's a little true. This is not the first time you've been tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, back off. It's not the first time, but at the end of the day, Stephen A knows he is a personality. He is an entertainment charge of personality. And the way he delivers his opinion has everything to do with ratings and why his show is number one and why he has the clout and the leeway at ESPN. And so it just kind of seems disingenuous for him to get on and say, well, it's not personal. He said, well, I know his parents. So what? You know the man's parents. So because you know them, what you said could not be taken personally. You said the man's just, pushing, he needs to push away from burgers, eating too many burgers. You can describe that man's work ethic in a different way. You can say if he could be a little bit more disciplined and keeping his weight under control, the Pelicans have just as good a shot as anybody else in the West to win or get to the NBA finals or the conference finals. That's all you got to say. That's what people used to say about Shaq. If Shaq would keep his weight under control, there's no stopping the Lakers. If Zion Williamson could keep his weight under control, the Pelicans are going to be a formidable opponent in the Western Conference. That's all you got to say. It really lies down. It comes down to Zion Williamson and his health, his longevity. So for you to say that it's not personal, or for people to say things are not personal when it gets personal, it's just silly. Just kind of say, well, that's just kind of the way that I describe it. I can respect that. But to just say personal shit ain't personal is just lying. It's disingenuous. It's disingenuous, right? Clearly they were being personal with you when they were trolling you with all the videos of your sports mishaps, of your, inability to prove your athleticism, the way that your ability isn't as athletic as your mouth, Stephen A. That's essentially what the Pelicans were saying. And then he goes on to say, well, Pelicans, you have more name changes than playoff wins. I mean, is that not personal? You're getting personal because they got personal, but they got personal because you got personal. I don't understand that. And I wish as a black man that Stephen A. Smith, I don't like the way Kwame Brown ended up continuously trolling Stephen A. Smith, but I do understand Kwame Brown's sentiment about it. And he said it wasn't personal with Kwame Brown. But it was personal. And I think Kwame Brown highlighted, I think for the first time, I think people really kind of started to look at, you know what, we probably do. Some people do kind of look at how they charge up and how they charge up behind critiquing athletes. I don't think that it is a far stretch to say. I don't think it's a far stretch to say that, yeah, y'all could do better. You can do better. Because at the end of the day, now let me think. Are there any white personalities, sports media personalities that use the word trash, that use the word, or that go in as hard as the black media personalities? I don't know. Colin Cowherd can be harsh sometimes, but he kind of does it in a way where we just, he just has high standards. I think Colin just has really high standards. But when you look at it, it is kind of like a black on black crime type of thing. At the end of the day, Stephen A. is always talking about, we want our brothers and we want our black brothers and, and we're brothers. They use the word brothers all the time. But at the same time, we won't find a different way to critique our brothers. I think Stephen A. is a leader. I think he is an example of excellence. And I think that he can find a better way to still be an animated entertainer without getting too personal. And when I say getting too personal, I'm saying using anything outside of a critique of his basketball play. And you can certainly talk about his weight in a more professional way and still be funny, right? You don't have to talk about burgers and him hiding food to really critique Zion and his unavailable, you know, presence on the basketball court. But I thought that was interesting, and Shannon Sharp does this a lot too. He will get heated and personal at anybody challenging anything that he says, but he doesn't understand why people are coming at him heated and personal, because he delivers heat in a personal way. He delivers personal things in a heated way, but he has a difficult time receiving and understanding why the heat comes back at him. It's like, people, we need to get some mirrors. My brothers, my favorite sports media pundits, my brothers, could we get some mirrors? But at the same time, they probably know, right? And I'm just really talking for nothing because they know what they're doing. They know who they are. They know what drives ratings. But I think it still does. It still bothers them at their truth just a little bit. Stephen A says he gets paid to do what he does and he's excellent at what he does. Zion Williamson is excellent enough at what he does. He's excellent at what he does, even with the weight. It would be awesome if some of that weight would come off. Sky's the limit, right? But I just think there may be something more to it. If you're saying the man's hiding food, that would be an indication to me that maybe I ought to, kind of put a different spin on how I report this uh, bit of information, right? Zion Williamson, you're a great man. Achieve continued success to you, sir. Stephen A., come on, bruh. You too articulate, you too intelligent, you too smart. I mean, I think Kwame Brown started a movement, and I think you are the last on the train, sir. And I don't think you're on the train. I think your voice is big enough. I think your personality is big enough, and I think you could afford to change a little bit in how you do things. All we're asking you to do is pull back from all of the heat, and regardless of how you feel about it or not, maybe it's personal for somebody else. Maybe just because you're not internalizing it as personal, if you hit somebody, you can't tell them it doesn't hurt. Maybe it's hurting someone else, right? Just maybe. I'm just saying. Food for thought. Tiffany Gaines, host of the Seekers podcast. Please hit like. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and jump in the comments. Let me know what you thought of my opining on the NBA, the referee situation, and our beloved Stephen A. Smith. I love Stephen A. Smith. I just want him to grow. Can we see another side, brother? All right. Peace.